Is there any doubt that the referendum, were to be held on time in January, will in fact pass, and that the South will vote to secede?
Well, I don't want to necessarily foretell the future, but certainly the research that's been done by a number of organizations indicates that most Southerners are in favor of a vote for independence. And if, as you say, if they get to the referendum on time and it's held in a credible manner, then indeed they will vote for secession. Now, it's important as there remain well, let me step back. The Comprehensive Peace Agreement was signed in 2005 that ended 2 decades of civil war. That agreement was designed in part to, quote, make unity attractive. Now, that responsibility was left to both parties, and specifically the party in control in the North, the National Congress Party. But over the last 5 years, I think most observers inside and outside Sudan and most Sudanese would say that unity hasn't been made attractive. And so we're in the last year of this interim period set out by that agreement. And there are a few key items remaining to be negotiated. One is demarcation of the border, north-south border. A second is an agreement on oil sharing, wealth sharing, which is the primary source of revenue for both regimes in Khartoum and in Juba. And the third is the timely holding of the referendum, the right to self-determination that was guaranteed to the Southerners to decide whether or not they want to stick and remain a unified state with a semi-autonomous government or go their own way.
How realistic is it to think about a real political engagement of a populace that doesn't have clean water, that doesn't have sufficient calories to just even survive, to juxtapose an election in this environment? How meaningful is it in the grand scheme of things?
Sure. Well, the elections were woven into the Comprehensive Peace Agreement as a means, as one of the elements for democratic transformation. Certainly at this stage, the elections probably won't achieve what was originally envisioned. We're concerned about problems of credible elections, but we certainly think, that said, if we're looking specifically at the South, we certainly think it's going to be difficult, particularly among communities that haven't exercised this democratic experience before. A large percentage of the population is illiterate. But that said, I have seen some good things coming out of this. Voter registration, while it had significant problems, was also, you could see the sort of beginnings of democracy and beginnings of a state here. But you're absolutely right. Elections are going to be a tall task, and while we've seen some positive democratic engagement in terms of the nominations process, we can hope for the best, and that this is the beginning of something much longer term.
How has the disarmament program gone?
That's a great question. Disarmament in the past has not gone very well in South Sudan. Previous campaigns have at best been incomplete and at worst caused greater violence. They are also one of the key sources of some of the conflict cycles we've seen in South Sudan in the last year. When certain communities are disarmed, there's been pockets of resistance, and in other cases where one community is disarmed and its neighboring community is not, there's somewhat of a security imbalance, and attacks have taken place against vulnerable communities, and a sort of tit-for-tat escalation we've seen in the last year comes about. That said, I do firmly believe that the government of South Sudan has learned lessons from from previous disarmament campaigns. They are this time, instead of just using force, they are trying to some degree to engage local communities, to work with traditional leaders, to try and first ensure a sort of pseudo-voluntary handing over of weapons. That said, they do still believe that the use of force is necessary in a lot of these situations. So far, in a place like Jonglei, disarmament is underway. It's been somewhat ad hoc. It hasn't been highly centralized in terms of planning. They have recovered several thousand weapons, but the challenges remain. And I think the two key challenges to disarmament are, one, can these communities be disarmed evenly and simultaneously? And second, will the government and its partners be able to provide security in the wake of disarmament to these communities? And those are the two things that communities are looking for.